Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast from Backlot Banter, and today we are talking about the film F1 the movie. Because F1, we are reviewing.
It's not. This would be FU. This is F1.
Click.
We are reviewing every single Best Picture nominee. That is our quest this year. And today we're gonna, as I said, talk about F1 the movie. We got a whole host of very excited movie experts here to go through the finer details of this film. As always, I want to remind you what we've talked about previously. We're going to hear a comment from Abram, and then we're going to get right in. This film, though, quick little bit of details about it. Of course, directed by Joseph Kosinski, starring Brad Pitt. We got Javier Bardem,
Joko,
Carrie Condon, Joko.
Oh, Joseph Kosinski.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We're buds.
Damson Idris.
Call him JK. You got JP.
Yeah. Yep.
You got BP.
True. And some, I don't know.
Many such corporate interests reflected in the movie F1.
Very true, very true. Last time, I will remind you, we talked about the Yorgos Lanthimos movie, Bugonia. We had a lot to say, and that film got a 7.5, so it's at spot number 7 on the list. And we will add the 9th film. We got this one, and we got one more afterwards, and then we have wrapped out of every single Best Picture nominee, and you... will, dear viewer, will have a whole host of knowledge of who is actually going to win or what we think is going to win at the Academy Awards coming up this month. So,
has our top voted one ever actually won the award?
Let's find out.
Studying 2021. No. 2022.
No. 2022. No. 2023.
I think so.
No. 2024. No. 2024. Our top one was Past Lives. That's crazy. 2025. No.
All right, we got 0 for 6.
And this year,
top one
maybe,
is Sinners,
but also probably not.
Maybe, but
probably not.
The future, as we are learning this week, is hard to predict, and so who knows what's going to happen? But I do know what's going to happen next in this introduction because Abram is going to read us a comment.
Well, I do have a comment here. This comes from our review of One Battle After Another. Comes from our treasured quest child with the best profile picture. That is Jay Galindo 46 with the Kermit in the little hat and jacket.
Recently learned what the J was short for. Interesting. I'm not going to say it here. You know, it's private in a Discord server. You got to join up for that kind of sneaky info, but...
Join a Discord server.
Yes.
Jay Galindo says, PTA is just too good. I love all his movies, and I wouldn't even put this banger in my top 5 of his films. Whatever the fuck Sean Penn is doing in this is my favorite thing of the year. He's up there with Bardem, Ledger, and Waltz when it comes to Academy Award-worthy villains of the century. My only complaint is that I do wish there was more of Willa. I'm with Tucker on that. Great discussion, guys. Not 1, not 2, but 3 thumbs up from Jay Galindo.
3?
Wait, hold on.
That third thumb.
But there's 4 of us. So
that's
one of us didn't get a thumbs up.
I was so excited, and yet this bodes.
We've got room for improvement.
Yeah, bodes.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's only up from here, folks.
True. Tanner, would you do us the great honor of describing the plot of F1 the movie?
Certainly. And I'm just gonna go. I call it F1. You know, we know it's a movie.
It's an SEO title. We don't need to acknowledge that here. A Minecraft movie. The Super Mario Brothers movie.
Exactly. The story of F1 is that we have an aged racer, by the name of Sonny Hayes, who was once an F1 driver way back in the 90s. You know, he raced with all the legends of that era.
I'm hearing that they don't call him a has-been, they call him a never was?
Oh, hang on a second.
I'm getting this from the field?
That's true, because just short of winning an F1 race, he tragically crashed and, went into hiding for several years and, was ultimately just doing races of all different kinds. He even had a brief stint as a New York taxi driver, if you can believe it. But of course,
I love Riders Republic.
He is brought back into the 21st century fold. That's stupid, Tucker. I'm sorry. I just will derail my entire train of thought. He's brought back into the fold of the 21st century F1 circuit when his old friend Ruben, who now owns the Apex GP F1 racing team, needs him to come back and with 9 races left in the season, win them a race so he can keep control of the team and it doesn't get taken over by the greedy and conniving, what's his name? Peter?
Sure, let's go with that.
I think his name's Peter.
Peter
Sure.
Banning.
It
Yeah,
is-
good call.
it is
Thank you.
Peter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Stannis Baratheon from Game of Thrones.
Well, thank you very much for that plot description, Tanner. I'm going to hand it to Abram here, who gets to go first on his thoughts, opinions, analysis, whatever have you on F1.
Okay, here's what I'll say. I've seen F1 3 times now. In different conditions. First in the theater, very much in awe of the spectacle and craft of this movie, which I think is still largely true. Second time, over Christmas on my parents' TV, which I can't believe is larger than 32 inches and is mounted about 18 feet away from the couch.
Classic.
And it's like 6 feet up in the air, too.
Yeah, are we
Yes,
talking
and it's on a
R/TV too high?
It's on well, it's lower than the TV they have on top of the refrigerator in the other room.
Okay, good.
You got to watch
This-
F1 on that at some point.
Yeah.
Of course. But this third time,
Just
I
stand
was
there
really-
going,
I was seated in my own home in front of my
Mhm.
55-inch TV, but most importantly, I was watching it through the lens of Quest for the Bestest. And so
yes.
I want to make this remark here. I find F1 to be an extremely fun, extremely watchable film, of which I am sort of in awe of the technical dimensions of it. But I also think that this is such a bad script. And I feel like I really dialed into that this time and feel like God bless everybody behind any sorts of cinematography, effects, sound design, editing.
Yeah.
All of these pieces that put the car together are why it can go as fast as it can.
If they
But
all
I-
do
I-
one contribution,
Mm.
But I think the more you
a
watch
tenth
this
of a
film,
second every second.
the more you watch this film and the closer you pay attention to what our characters want, what our characters do, how this plot is constructed, I think it really starts to fall apart a bit.
Tucker, I want to hear from you next. What did you think?
Yeah, I think Abe was right about all of that, but I think my addition to that will be the reason why I find the broader scope, weak plot, or let's just say serviceable plot,
Sure.
to be decently excusable is because I actually do think that on a storytelling level, the moment to moment of a lot of the races, which are most of the movie, are actually incredibly well crafted moments, sequences of storytelling and of planning and of either rivalry or cooperation. And so I think that this movie actually does quite a bit, especially for someone like me who has never seen an actual F1 race, isn't particularly interested in racing, and actually to the point where I often find it confusing why someone would be so interested in racing. Watching this movie and seeing the things that Sonny Hayes does in some of these races, I'm locked in with him, and I feel like I'm doing the planning. I feel like I'm being surprised by the ways in which they're stretching the rules almost to their breaking point. I think that is why this is one of my favorite racing movies and why I think it stands in sort of a class above in terms of storytelling is because, well, by the end, I'm not like over the moon about where the characters end up or the final race, which spoilers they win. I'm so engrossed by hours of this movie, which are we need to change the airflow on this one tiny thing and the dirty air and we do it just this thing and we slip speed them and I'm sitting here I'm like, oh yeah baby, and that I think that planning element and the execution is so engaging that the characters are fine. They have a fine enough dynamic. I think that the themes of it of a aging guy is trite as all hell, but like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm like, these are great sequences, and it's a really engaging film to watch. And so I think this is top of the craft stuff, as I think we probably will all agree. But also, I think that it does do something a little bit of a step above in terms of making racing understandable and exciting and clever. It turns racing into something clever rather than just like focus. It's about this like cooperation and planning. I think that's a skill that very few sports movies have, is keying you into the thought process. This movie's about the thought process of a sport that I don't know anything about, and I find that very, very fascinating.
I want to jump right in here because Tucker, I want to give my thoughts, but first, a wee story. Because way back in the day when I used to live in Austin, Tucker, you remember this? They built an F1 track in our city. And I went and saw.
I've been on it. I've got a COVID shot on that track.
How fast were you going when you got the COVID shot?
88 miles an hour.
88 miles an hour.
And so I recall
They didn't like me.
I went to
Oh,
one F1 race. A family member really liked F1, and this extreme stark difference between the experience of watching this movie and watching F1 in real life makes it so that just like I think is noteworthy, mainly because F1 in real life was extremely boring, and when it was not boring, it was deafeningly loud. And then you would go back to sitting there for like another 20, 30 minutes and then come back around. This movie, on the other hand, as you guys have said, I won't repeat all of that, very electric in what I will call the A movie, because we have two movies in here is how I'm seeing it. We got when we're on the track, when we're racing, and when we're not on the track and when we're not racing. And like you say, Tucker, I think that the storytelling of the race dynamic, like who's in front, what corner do you got to do this on, like all this kind of like geeky techie stuff about like the actual race and how our characters' smartness, abilities, and tenacity or whatever is going to get them to
Your
first
smartness
place.
is also really up there.
Going off the charts here. That is very fun to watch and fun to see them think through. But as soon as we get out of the race car, I am not very interested. I'm paying attention and here for the characters and suspending my disbelief and wanting to see, some of this kind of drama play out. But ultimately, I'm just waiting until we can get back on the racetrack and we can have them camera shots whip panning around and beyond, just flexing this really, really impressive cinematographic muscle that Kosinski and his cinematography team has. But ultimately, I don't think this film goes anywhere to say anything. The forces behind this film are questionable at best. And so, I think it's really, I don't know if I like it as the most of my racing movies that I've seen, but every time I'm watching the racing, I'm like, I do really like this genre. Like I really enjoy watching the cars go super fast. I love playing racing video games. And so I just fit right in with this, the topic area. But ultimately, I'm really going to come on a very solid center of the pack on this one, because while it's fun and exciting, boy, is there nothing behind it. I don't know. There's nothing behind F1 other than let's make the car go fast. Let's make the car go fast and burn some oil. So it's,
Center of the pack is better than Apex GP does most of the time. So
That's so true.
Maybe I
That is
revise
so
my
true.
that's biting commentary.
Tanner, you get to go last. I let you save yours for the final say.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked this movie when I saw it in theaters. I think it just has that effect, seeing it big and loud, and in that format. Rewatching it at home is a little bit like you're driving your speedboat in a bathtub. I have to say,
Whoa.
to the degree of I'm like, really, how effective is it? In all of those categories that I loved so much in the theater, because when I rewatched like Top Gun Maverick or whatever at home, I felt the very same feelings that or far closer to what my experience was in theaters. Rewatching that, another Joe Code joint there for you. But for F1, I also watched it with Anna. I like watching these Best Picture nominees that we re-review with her. She's a set of fresh eyes on this most of the time, and like I'll paint her experience more so than mine, because my thoughts on the film are largely the same as everyone else's in the call. It seems like she was apprehensive, perhaps the most apprehensive out of all the nominees to watch F1 with me, because she doesn't like Brad Pitt for a number of extenuating circumstances. That yes, he is probably he's done some bad shit. Like we'll throw that out there.
Bad shit. That's his name. It's like Brad Pitt.
Bad show. I see. Okay,
More
very
like.
good. But we popped this one into the old 4K player, and it took about 5 to 10 minutes for her to be like, okay, yeah, I'm in on this. Like it just grabs you and really, really locks you into exactly its rhythms and its moods and its swings and everything like that. And all the drama between old guy, young guy, and the inherent camaraderie amongst the team and everything like that, and the conniving billionaire versus the upstart, respectable millionaire in Ruben or whatever. All this stuff, all of this stuff, I think is good blockbuster storytelling that is flawed and did wane for me on a rewatch. So, part of me wonders, how many layers of this jawbreaker are going to get wiped away if I keep rewatching this. So I think something I consider.
So Tucker, what general area of this film do you want to begin or prompt us rather to discuss first here? Call us BLB GPT and we'll just go with whatever our prompt is.
I want to start us at the end of the movie because I think that a lot of my issues with the movie culminate in this last 20 minutes, which is the last race in Abu Dhabi and the lead up to that, and the very brief denouement afterward. That's where the movie is at its most generic. I think its tensions are at its least interesting. And also, the racing is at its least clever.
Yeah.
Rewatching this, I was like, this is the most boring race in the entire movie because he's not being a jackass. They're working together. And it made me realize that...
Boring. Teamwork. Boring.
No, but the way that this movie keys up so many of its races is this tension between planning and the teamwork and the push and pull of that and the ways in which Sonny, as sort of a wrecking ball, has come in and disrupted not only the team, but the wider F1 community. And that tension, again, even as someone who doesn't understand it, is so fascinating, engaging to be thinking about where the rules exist and how you can break them or bend them to your own benefit. And in this last race, when they're just racing and doing it well and working together, I'm like, where's Sonny Hayes? He loses all of his personality in this last race.
He's the one in the car.
He's Brad Pitt.
Oh, he's at somewhere between P22 and P1.
Exactly.
But what do you guys think about that? I was like dozing off in this last one because I'm like, he's not doing anything clever or exciting. It's
also a pretty long movie. It's 2.5 hours, and I really felt it at home, I will say. But
2.5 plus credits.
2.5 plus credits.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to say, when you said you wanted to talk about the end of the movie, I was so excited to do 20 minutes on the Ed Sheeran song with you. But I guess we'll talk about the movie proper. But I think you're absolutely right with that stuff, and it is emblematic and a downstream effect of the larger issue of the movie that you briefly addressed, which is the old guy still got it story that is this movie. It does not undermine that. It does not undercut that. It does not examine that at all.
It plays the beats at the end.
It plays the exact beats, and it's a little flimsy to do the big triumphant moment of Brad Pitt gets in the zone and does the race and he's the best. Where I was like, I never had a doubt in my mind that he could do that.
Yes.
He talks to Kerry Condon about how that is a thing that happens to him regularly.
No. He says he's always searching for it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have it regularly.
Does he? Oh,
but he's experienced it before, at least.
Sure.
It's a big problem that the movie has. And this speaks to, I think, the trouble of making this type of F1 movie. There is a lot of F1 fans who do not like this movie because this movie is as far from realistic as it could possibly be. I don't think that's an issue because...
What if there were aliens, Abram?
They do 18 races or whatever it is a year. Just go turn on ESPN. You can go watch actual F1.
Mm-hmm.
This is a movie that needs to make the sport of F1, which is, as you were saying earlier, Tucker, but I think in real life in a less exciting way, a very technical sport of shaved milliseconds and team planning and tire degradation. They have to make that into a rousing blockbuster.
Yeah.
But there is a problem with real F1 that is a problem with this film too, which is that F1 at the end of the day is about money. F1 is about the amount of money you have to pour into the best, fastest car. And if you are not in the best, fastest car, you're basically doing a different sport. Real F1 is down to 3 or 4 of the teams on the grid who have a car good enough to compete at the top on straightaways, into the turns, all of this stuff. And if you're not that team, well, then it's really boring for you. So what this movie does is a great job of dramatizing. Let's say that the stewards didn't care for a couple weeks. What would it be like to come up with these elaborate fun strategies on the track? That's all great. But then when the movie solves the problem that is the problem with real F1, which is not having the fast enough car, once you have the fast enough car, it's also boring too.
Yeah.
Because then you're just out racing people on the track.
Ultimately, the drivers are all pretty equal, right, at the top level. Like they're all they have the same equipment to train in simulators and
Brad Pitt has to go out of his way in this movie to say, well, Max Verstappen's really good.
Yeah.
Well, so okay.
All these guys gave cash to fund the movie, I think.
Yes, they were producers.
Let me make this quick rant here at the start, and then we don't have to get into this more.
Okay.
I think that another big hindrance on this movie is what I can only imagine was so much bureaucratic horse shit about what racer gets to do what insert shot we drop here. So there's weird shit like Lewis Hamilton, who produced this movie. There's shots of his dog Roscoe. There's there's mentions of there's Will Buxton, who's this famous F1 commentator. There's all of this stuff. There's a shot that is a guy playing F1 23.
Shido?
Yeah.
It is that, but then there's this other issue as well. And this speaks, I think we can use this as a pivot point into the bigger issue with characters in this movie. The film does not have a real on-track rivalry after the first 40% of the movie.
Yeah.
At that point, it then becomes about racing ourselves, really. Brad Pitt is racing himself.
And his trauma.
Yes, and then we're also vaguely racing the rest of the grid. But ultimately, in that final race, Lewis Hamilton is kind of like Darth Vader flying in his TIE fighter at the end of A New Hope.
Because the last one is the race where there's it almost looks like it's almost like guerrilla footage. It seems, obviously it's not, but of someone filming Lewis Hamilton on his phone looking determined, and Kuleshov affecting that into he's the villain for this race.
Yeah, kind of. And he's racing without saying anything over the team radio, and they're just gassing him up. The race ends with a racing incident. So Lewis Hamilton can be the front runner until a racing incident, and then we can allow Brad Pitt to win. There's no triumph over a rival on the track. And I think that this puts and whether that's because of the F1 corporation wanting to be presented in a particular way, or what, the function of in the film is that Brad Pitt's character has no real anything to overcome by the end of the film. We attempt to introduce on a plot level this complication about another crash, which I think is a real mistake and not necessary to the plot. We introduce a blurry vision that has no bearing on anything. The film is all
affect him at all.
That is a real hat on a hat moment where he's like, uh-oh, am I going to be able to do it? I was like, I don't think you're going to die in this race, Brad. You're going to be okay.
Yeah. This is where I'm curious for you guys' points of view, because I think that this is a classic example of a movie whose Act 3 problem is an Act 1 problem, which is that Sonny Hayes is not a character that has a real interesting story. He's he's not a champion F1 driver, but he's a champion of Daytona 500. He's a champion of all this other stuff.
He's the best. He did the Dakar Rally. Do you guys know what the Dakar Rally is? No. That's the crazy. It's the craziest. Only in the desert, and it's different kinds of vehicles basically chasing through the desert,
this
all the way
Baja
across
1000
Africa.
Is. Baja 1000 sounds like it'd be a great
movie, Tucker.
Be cool.
Here's
kind
of
what the Saber develops video game Dakar Rally.
Sonny Hayes takes New York. I want to see that.
What?
No, by the way, I was surprised when I saw in the when they called the track the Strip in Vegas. I'm like, no, they're on the main street.
Yeah.
They're on the Strip. That's crazy.
quick aside. Sorry, I'm sorry to keep cutting you off, Timo. Abram, the Las Vegas Strip race has only been a thing for the last couple of years, right? That was recently implemented. Yeah. And they have to I was telling
to have the drone
shot
shot of the sphere just to remind us too.
Well, yeah. I was telling Anna that they have to weld all the manhole covers down because there's that one clip of when they didn't, and the vacuum of the car sucked up the manhole cover and hit the bottom of the car.
Crazy. the issue that I want to point out here, because I think Abram's right, pretty much wholesale there with what he's saying, is what is the purpose of this movie? What is the purpose of this movie artistically, and what is the purpose of this movie commercially? I don't know if I have a good answer for artistically other than cool cars, cool cinematography, cool sound design, cool, rule of cool,
Yeah.
right? Economically, I know 100% what the purpose of this movie is, and it is advertising for Formula One, right? The most obvious thing you could claim about this movie. But what you say, Abram, about maybe there's drama within the meta story of how this movie's made about the FIA representing themselves well, given that every single team bought into this movie, all the sponsors that are on the teams bought into being in this movie, the level of buy-in on the project necessitates decision making by committee, which creates these kind of these characters that we just know where they're going to go. This movie's so predictable because we've all seen a sporting movie, and so they just follow. This movie follows along the path of a character. In this case, it's is he a has been or was he a never was? Right. That's our question through the whole movie, and it's like, well, he's got it still. He's Brad Pitt. He's got it still.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that at all.
He just got an Oscar a few years ago, guys. He's not down for the count yet.
He's not down yet. And so the purpose of the movie as an ad, as a 2-hour and 40-minute ad, makes it so that it can't get into anything interesting about the sport or about these kind of real dramatic things. I think I didn't really pick up on in the final race that there's no track rival, as you guys coined the term, but like you're completely right. And that makes it much less entertaining, as you guys outlined. Nobody was willing to sign up to be the villain, right? They wanted someone to be, and they didn't want to write yet another fake team, another fake character.
Because what they did, though, and the only rivalry in the movie is between two fake characters who are on the same team, so it doesn't.
Yeah. And because it's a sporting movie, they're on the same team. They have to come back together, right? We have no choice but to have them make.
And not only do they come back together, and this is another thing that makes this last race really uninteresting, is the young guy who's been nipping at his heels the entire time is just like, oh boy, yeah, good job, Sonny Hayes, yippee! Exactly. And then Sonny Hayes is just like locked in, and I'm like, what? What's going on here?
Is he pissed off? So, I mean, sure, his job is secure. At least he has a job for another year. But like beyond that, this is a failure.
I think in the math of the movie math, if you will, that they do the work to get you there with Joshua's character. Damson Idris, I think, is quite good. Really announces himself as a really solid young star, holding his own against Brad Pitt in these scenes. I'd say the charisma levels and everything are commensurate, which is impressive to say. But they do the work to get you there with Joshua's character. He is going to deliver some flowers and a big teddy bear or whatever the fuck to Brad Pitt in the hospital, and he overhears the conversation going on between is it Ruben and Sonny about you're gonna die if you crash again or whatever. So like the empathizing is there, which then bowls right into him saying the very sweaty and very script necessary line to diffuse these very feelings that we're talking about, where he's like, hey, I'm gonna win 1,000,000 races, I thought I might as well let you win one or whatever.
Script
it's
necessary
a really
is a good word for that.
Really sweaty line there. But again, it goes back to my main core issue of the movie is that it has to do the old guy still got it, because as much as this is a corporate marketing maintenance movie for F1, it is also that for Brad Pitt. This is the very first I think
star
one
vehicle.
of the very first logos you see, one of the very first things you see when you pop in this movie, either on streaming or on physical, is Plan B, which is Brad Pitt's production company. Yes. And his name is all over this. He is the face of F1 as far as the global brand has been concerned for the past 8 months or however long this movie
since
has been
it came
out.
out in the summer.
He is synonymous basically with this brand as of late, just by nature of this being the flagship movie, the flagship attempt to cut into the mass pop culture by F1. I also have to continue going on my rant here.
Continue.
Just one day before I watched F1, I watched another movie. A movie by the name of Cars 3.
Cars 3,
a film I'd never seen before. But is
not that bad. Not that bad.
Hey,
I kind of like
pretty
Cars
good
3.
movie, I would say. Quite
Yeah.
on par with the first film, which is also fairly good, but also tinged by nostalgia. But coming at this with 25-year-old eyes and watching Cars 3, I was like,
By the way,
pretty good
do you guys
movie.
remember when they like dropped the Cars 3 like teaser? And it's like,
Yeah.
Lightning McQueen's
Lightning
gonna
McQueen's-
die in
Lightning
this
McQueen's
one.
fucking dead. When that scene happened in the movie, I was like, can you imagine being 7 years old and watching this? Because they really dragged it out. I was like, Lightning
Yeah.
McQueen is fucking dead, dude. Anyway, the plot of Cars 3 broadly concerns Lightning McQueen being outpaced, being the old guy being outpaced by the next generation of racers or whatever. And so he has to get this new trainer by the name of Cruz Ramirez, who takes him out into the sticks. And they're doing a mix of like old and new training. And she's also unaccustomed to all the old ways of training. He's unaccustomed to the new ways of training. And they meet up with the old timer who started the sport of racing and all of this stuff. And when it comes time to do the fateful race that will decide whether Lightning McQueen stays a racer or retires and has to sell mud flaps or whatever the fuck, he races like the first half of this race. He gets pulled out. I forget for what reason. I think he does it purposefully. A real Sonny Hayes kind of move. And what he does is he says, "No, Cruz Ramirez. I remember a conversation we had earlier in the movie where you said always wanted to be a racer, but you could never cut it because you didn't believe in yourself. Well, I'm making you believe in yourself right now. Get out there, finish this race for the team." And then he coaches her through that. I was just watching that. I was just thinking about that when watching F1. I was like, that is a better narrative of the old guy gets it done thing than what F1 does. Where it is a literal passing of the torch. It is moving it on to the next generation. It is what happens kind of in Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick is a lot of Tom Cruise is still the best number one guy around, but there's a more equalization between him and the young characters in that, I feel. Whereas that is not really the case in F1.
I think this to me, Tanner, indicates another issue I have with the movie, which is that you're talking about in Cars 2, which I haven't seen. Sorry. There's
Cars 3.
Yeah, Cars 3.
Cars 2 is a spies one.
Yeah,
I've seen that one.
I've
seen that one. What does Sonny Hayes have to learn from Joshua Pierce?
Yeah, Tucker's got.
Well, I will say, I think you're right. That question is like hanging, and you're like confused about it. But also, what does Sonny Hayes want? Is something that we like continue to visit throughout the movie, and then they end it on a fucking cliffhanger without answering the question. And I'm like, no, screw you, that's terrible.
He just wants to drive, man. He just wants to be behind the wheel.
He just like laughs at the camera and it ends. I'm like, you.
That's Tucker. That is that gave me brain damage on this viewing. So I agree with you, but
So
I think we're gonna take it one by one because there is, I think, an important problem here in that the relationship does not go both ways. There's really nothing for JP to teach Brad Pitt's character.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
And because I think that there's
Other than teamwork, kind of. But he doesn't learn that from JP. He learns it from everyone else.
But also-
excuse me, guys. Excuse me. He teaches him what swan means.
of course. but let's think about what makes the race scene so exciting for a viewer, which is that largely like the audience in those scenes is actually like the pit crew and the race principal and everybody watching from Apex GP who don't know what he's going to do. Teamwork for Sonny Hayes is having a team to work exactly as he wants them work.
He orchestrates. Everyone gets on board
having
with
a
his
team
chemistry.
to work.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
So funny.
part of why I think this movie ends up feeling so vacuous
Team,
at its core,
work as
Exactly.
a command.
it ends up feeling so vacuous to me at its core on this watch because JP's issue is also not skill. JP's
No, he's really talented.
He makes a bad move. He tries to overtake Verstappen in a place he shouldn't.
Mhm.
But the film is also like very much in the business of abdicating all responsibility for that choice to Sonny Hayes. And yes, he comes to mature and he comes to understand that he was too hasty in that moment. Whatever. The material problem that JP has in this movie is that the board is going to oust him.
That's the material problem for like everybody in the movie is that the board is going to oust them. That is the plot level stakes is that People with money are upset about the lack of money making.
This is a film that is in large part concerned with like pose. Like how are you supposed to represent yourself in the sport of F1? How are you supposed to exist in this space? And what I think this film is reinforcing in part is that the talent is not that critical to any of this. Because because the way F1 works is that there's F2 and F3 under it. And
There's
there are
Formula
kids who,
E, which is the electric version, and on and on.
from the second you are gain conscience as like a 3-year-old, you are training to be in Formula One. And so this is a movie about a lot of other shit around that. And I find that to hollow out the film. Because what we need to do is we need to get a win for the sake of preventing a hostile moneyed takeover. As much as the film wants to suggest that this is about some pure interest in that Sonny Hayes has
The joy of victory
for
or
racing,
whatever.
it's actually not really about that. That's not that important to the movie. What's important to the movie is that we have Carrie Condon's character make a fast enough car so that two racers who the film affirms over and over again are very talented can demonstrate that talent in a way that saves Javier Bardem's ass.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make for a compelling movie because there's this really interesting portion, the snappily edited montage portion of winning races after we get the new floor for the car. And that's great.
When Josh was out, that's the scene you're talking about when Josh was
Yes.
after his injury.
And everything turns on a dime then. We're getting points. We're in the top 10. We're putting points on the board, board. Josh comes back. The only tension we can muster up here is about the two guys locking heads. And then Josh just gets a point finish in that race after he spins Sonny off the track. The movie has no concern with talent. I think that's really frustrating.
Well,
I think it makes it difficult to care about these characters. I think it makes it difficult to care about them teaching each other anything. Because the only things they have to teach each other are like temerity and like communication and these off-the-track things.
The movie is very clear with what both characters have to learn, and only one character learns that. You know, in the poker scene, they say Joshua needs to learn patience, and Brad Pitt needs to learn to listen. Which he responds, "Huh?" And we never do anything after that. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, of course, it's funny, but like that is you telling us what the character arcs are supposed to be, and that it's not.
I think
Yeah.
that a lot of this comes from the what is in service of what. The movie is like everything about the plot and everything about the character is to get us back into these cars and back onto the racetrack, and so we can pump the Hans Zimmer score and just fly. Like, and that this is, I don't know, it's not very advanced script writing when you don't have, when you're writing for the purpose of getting to these action scenes, you're not developing, as you guys have outlined, of which I agree with, you're not developing any characters or emotions or feelings or arcs because we just want to get back to will we win or will we lose? And it's interesting when we're in the moment, for the most part, except for this final race, which is because that race is in service of the plot as opposed to the plot being in service of the races. But all this connective tissue with character work and these, this poker scene, and it's like it just is kind of boring. And I definitely spent a couple of these scenes just talking over them because I could pay attention just fine, and I like didn't lose much.
Well, let's take it to what Tucker said. To Tucker, take it to your point about what Sonny Hayes wants. 'Cause I think that's critical to invoke here.
Well, I think a lot of these points that we're mentioning of the F1, this being an image booster for F1 and an image booster for Brad Pitt and a
Probably
and that
Apple
also
too, who put up a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then that also being like a sort of question mark hanging over the motivations of the characters and how simplistic they are. I think my struggle with this film is that I think all these are true, but I think you don't realize them until the movie's really wrapping up. And I also think you don't realize them because a lot of the movie actually, to me, doesn't feel as cookie cutter, as simplistic, as straightforward, because most of the movie, Sonny Hayes is fighting dirty. That's what makes this movie interesting. And that is pushing back against the F1. That is bending the rules a little bit. That's making everyone else mad. That is him coming in with a cool persona and a lot of knowledge up in his head because he's done other things that aren't F1 and bringing this new flavor to the sport. That, like, when we say this feels like it's F1, like trying to be like, we're cool, and by the end of the movie, that last one is exactly that. That's not what the majority of the movie spends his time on. So we say, like, he's skilled. It's not just that he's skilled. He also has
he's crafty
this technique and knowledge and willingness to be clever and willingness to be brash that I think is actually what makes him an interesting character. And so I'm not, for most of the movie, I'm not particularly concerned with what does he want? What is his goal? How the image of the F1? Because he actually feels like he's kind of sticking it to the man. He doesn't. He comes in. He's cool as a freaking cucumber, and he does not give a shit. And he's like, "Yeah, let me off the team if you want. Like, I'm the one like doing anything for you guys." So this movie like pushes at itself, where I come out the other end by a really trite ending and a really specifically ending shot where I'm like rolling my eye, like my eyes are like doing. They're going around,
and the score really doesn't help because he goes, "Yeah," and the movie ends. You're like, okay,
but. I'm not thinking about all that stuff because most of the movie isn't that. It's the cool ass scenes where he's like, "No, screw you guys. I'm not telling you what I want, but we're gonna figure this shit out on the fly."
Yes, and Tucker, you're absolutely correct, and that is what makes this movie exciting and fun to watch. Like from that standpoint of designing this movie from script to direction to everything, like. It is undeniably effective at that. I found that is what draws you in and makes you fist pump and everything like that. It's what made this a great summer blockbuster for 2025. But also, I think that there's if we want to intellectualize this a little bit, as we just were about the corporate management of it all, they literally lampshade that too, wherein Peter and Ruben are in their office talking about, hey, isn't it kind of good that Brad Pitt doesn't do media interviews? It's like punk rock for the brand. It's good for the brand. It was like, that's what F1 is banking on you thinking about this. Is that there's like, oh, bad boy shit happens in F1. Like it is good for the brand. That kind of attitude that he brings into it. But it's also makes for a good and really fun movie.
Yeah, and also, again, a much more interesting movie than where this movie ends up.
Sure.
He doesn't fight dirty at all in the last one. And that's what's so funny about this is, like, what does JP learn from Sonny Pierce? Obviously, patience and that kind of thing, but also,
Pierce
like...
is JP's last name, bro.
Yeah, that's what I said. What?
No, never mind. We knew what you meant.
Sorry.
We knew what you meant. Go on.
What does he learn from Sonny Hayes? Is actually... fighting dirty and like learning the loopholes and rules is actually kind of awesome. And they're doing all these tricks and like learning these different things about where we can use plan C instead of plan A. And you're sitting like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. They skip straight to plan C. And then in the last race, they don't use any of the skills that they've taught themselves over the course of the...
That is kind of what real F1 is about, is finding loopholes and exploiting unwritten rules. It's just that the FIA is always coming in and closing them. And so it's like, okay, one you made this incredible invention that makes your car way better than everybody's else. Well, you get 1 year and we're going to ban that, and next year you cannot use it. And so it's like that is... It's dramatic. It's like drama for drama's sake. There's no plot. Like, there's no movement if you just, take the cool inventions and ban them, which is what happens in real life. And so in the movie, yes, he's got to return to fighting clean by the end of it all.
Tucker, I really think you like this. Like this last scene is like a skeleton key for unlocking a lot of the issues of the film, and also a lot of strengths of the film. So I'm glad you started us here, actually. Because
are we technically still on that?
Yeah, kind of. But
I think we all kind of are, honestly.
There's a degree to which this film is like... this film is like upholding like the way that F1 is supposed to operate ultimately in the end. All of that dirty fighting that you're talking about that makes it for a fun, dramatic movie is like it's not up to code. And it's not even, it's not just that it's not up to code in the rules, it's not up to code in the decorum of what F1 is. Like, F1 is a very decorum-led, very, like legacy concerned, very rich, very white sport also, which is why I don't. I
Man,
find that
politics at
Damson.
F1. Ugh. Hear
Yeah,
no evil,
I
see
find.
no evil. That's what I'm about it.
Yeah, I find the handling of Damson Idris's character, I think, unfortunate. I think he
Hmm.
gets portrayed quite poorly in this movie, and the end result is a guy who is like, um, come to like understand that it's all about the race when it's not. It actually is all about those things that he wanted before.
His
It is
his
all about
manager is low key right in working the business.
it's all about the Tag Heuer collaboration, and it's all about the yacht, and it's all about this stuff. But by the end, he performs in this place where he is waiting for his turn to be the champion, the constructors champion driver. He is participating with his team. He is not out for to jump ship. Like he's put into the box he's supposed to be in as this young
Mhm.
F1 driver with prospects at Mercedes with Toto. But for so much of the movie before that, he is, I think, unlikable. I think they portray him as unlikable. I think they portray him as somebody who is obsessed with all of this stuff that the
Yeah.
movie wants to tell you isn't important, but I can tell you that this movie is about a sport where all that stuff is important.
Yeah, exactly. It
Very
points
interesting.
to Tucker's point about the inherent interest of this movie being Brad Pitt railing against all of those systems, the systems of F1, but also the entire all the interest that surround it with social media and brand partnerships and everything like that. Because JP is directly invested in all of that stuff, and the movie mines all of its like hell yeah old guys still got it rah rah fist pumping out of that dichotomy. I mean, how many fucking times in this movie is there a montage where like Brad Pitt is like running on the track and doing his rubber ball hand-eye coordination things? Well, JP is like, here I am with a vacuum, and here I am with a credit card you can buy, and like
Here I
here
am
I
with
am
this
going to a
crazy
club.
oxygen mask, and they're
Yeah,
getting my blood samples
they
and
do
stuff.
the Rocky IV training montage difference as well too, which is when they do all that. But even literally the brand partnerships and social media thing, where Brad's just like, can't care about all that stuff, man. It's all about the racing.
It's all noise.
But think about it. Let's think about it from the perspective of what the filmmaking
Racers be on
language
their
is telling
phone.
us.
Mhm.
The filmic language of this movie is telling us that all of this like high tech, high sophistication, expensive stuff that JP is doing is like not as good or not as pure or not as rigorous as
Pales in comparison.
What is it when you do
But-
bad acts, but it's okay because you have clear intentions and pure soul or whatever? It's kind of that.
Tucker Hazel.
Mm.
But what I don't understand is that this goes back to my point about this movie not really being about skill and making a lot of these tropes of the sports film that it's pulling on not very effective, because when we are cross-cutting between their two workout regimens, the juxtaposition is not relevant in any way because they both perform equitably on the track. The film is actually quite concerned with explaining that they perform about equivalently. And even in the final race, they were racing so evenly that it must go down to a racing incident for one of them to be crowned the winner. I don't understand what the film is trying to indicate to us about the difference between these characters by cross-cutting these
I mean,
differing philosophies
yeah.
they have.
It's almost that it's not trying to be about the indication, it is trying to be about the in the moment rewarding the audience's preconceived notions. Absolutely, that's what it is.
Rewarding
like-
or subverting is because
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is like when you think about racing, and to Abrams' point, I think for real life racing, it is more about decorum, skill, zoop, 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 like this kind of thing. But we're as you mentioned, the position is we're the pit crew who doesn't know shit about shit when it comes to Sonny A's racing. They know a
Mhm.
lot about normal style racing, but they don't know when he's just sitting there on his ass for 30 seconds because he's gonna like zoop out and like dink a guy's like thing off. It's like we don't know what he's going to do. He's a loose cannon to everyone involved, and that I think is a fascinating dichotomy because I always felt like, even on a second watch, I'm always on my toes because everyone else is like, uh-oh, is he gonna like either help us win big or really screw us up?
No, because I disagree though, because again, and it's it's a part of the suspending your disbelief and yada 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 about any movie. But like this movie is like, well, the movie teaches the audience anything Brad Pitt does is the right move.
That's true.
Anything he does is the right call
Any
in the
scheme he
even
can
when
come
he's
up
not
with.
even when he sits in the pit for 20 seconds because he's throwing a tantrum and he wants his tires that he wants. You're like, well, of course you need to
Robbie,
give Brad.
Dr. Rabinovich sits in the pit for 12 hours. I don't know what Sonny Hayes is doing.
Very good point. But like when you're sitting there, I am not like, oh, what the hell is he doing? You're like, no, give Sonny Hayes the tires that he wants.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. You guys are stupid. You should be trusting Brad Pitt. I mean, Sonny Hayes.
But it's a good point because the film it finds a way to be very frictionless, and I think that this is a problem with. I think this is even a problem with how we feel as viewers on the track, because I find the accident that JP has to be such an interesting wrinkle in the movie, because to Tanner's point, Brad Pitt's character did not make a mistake. It's actually reaffirmed in the simulator at the end of the movie.
He told him to do the right thing.
And he did the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he is penalized, but he is penalized in a way that is very much unimportant.
Yeah, he's out for 3 weeks and then he's fine. He's like completely fine.
And in the time that he's off, we spend it ellipsed in montage, so we don't even really feel his absence, but we do feel this jealousy he has, and I think that it's such an
that is spurred on by Joshua's manager too. Like that whole training montage. Whenever we see Joshua, and he's like, "Hey man, fucking Brad Pitt, he did this on purpose. He's coming for your spot. He's trying to cut you out of the whole picture, big dog."
Mm-hmm.
But it's just peculiar because that's not what the movie. This goes back to the point of no friction, because their relationship does not break along that line. The tensions they have past that point are no different from the tensions before his accident.
Do you know what other relationship has no friction at all? Brad Pitt and Carrie Condon's character. They say things like, "Oh, we know this is wrong. Like it's the teammate, and we're in the middle. I never do this in the middle of the season." And it's just like all of those walls or boundaries are just completely moot because the characters are like destined to be together or something. You know, I don't really buy their romance. I think they're good together in scenes, but like them, it doesn't add to the emotional stakes of the race, right? You do that like, oh, she's so worried about him crashing and dying, right? Like, well, no.
Yeah, she's got a job to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this speaks to a deep problem that Tara and I glanced off of before we started recording, which is that I think Brad Pitt's bad in the movie. I think he has no charisma. I think he has zero charisma. You all invoked a movie I recently watched. I rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood recently.
Sure.
I mentioned what I was saying before we recorded was that Brad Pitt almost plays the same character. Like, is Sonny Hayes any different than Cliff Booth?
Cliff Booth has a little bit. Well, it's interesting because
Cliff Booth's got more swag. I'll say he got more.
He's got way more swag.
He's got more swag. He seems more dangerous too. I mean, like, obviously it's the circumstances, the actual events of the movies are far different. But like there's definitely a dark edge to Cliff Booth that Sonny Hayes does not have.
Picked up on was that the vocal the actual performances of these two characters are really similar. They talk in the same way. He hits this like gravelly vocal register in the same way, and yeah, so Sonny Hayes is a much less deep character than Cliff Booth, but they just are like really similar. And so that really threw me into questions like, what is Brad Pitt up to? I mean, he's just being him, really.
Well, I mean, yeah, and my issue is like it's hard to compare these roles because a Quentin Tarantino movie obviously is going to give you a lot more latitude to perform in ways that are showy and interesting. But I still think that Brad Pitt feels like so beleaguered in this movie. And I think that his beleaguered affect doesn't align really with the fact that he is physically and mentally very spry. I think he's trying to seed this sort of grizzledness into the character of Sonny Hayes. It doesn't exist. Sonny Hayes, if anything, is this guy that is like thinks he's still 35.
He kind of is.
He kind of is, and so I find I find that dissonance frustrating, and I feel like Brad Pitt, when he comes alive a little bit, is more interesting when he gets into a shoving match or when he's you know,
The scene with the press where he
You
just
know-
answers with yes or no, you know, and I thought
Yeah.
that was a
Great
very,
scene.
it's a very good
Yeah,
performance.
it's very funny.
Yeah.
You know what scene is very Cliff Booth?
The way that scene ends, by the way, is there anything that you would have changed, like that you were getting? He's like, "Yep." Huh? God, oh, that's a great line. I love that.
Like, here's the thing. I said that the Sonny Hayes character is poorly written. I think everything that we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes underlines that fact a billion times over. I think that Brad Pitt gets by on movie star charm alone in this movie.
I actually agree with you too.
Because he can do moments like what Tucker just said, or any dozens of moments that we could bring up and be like, hey, that was really funny and really cool or whatever. Like
yeah,
that
just
made
like
me.
it's the
me
movie
buy into
star
the movie.
quality to him. I
Yeah,
think.
exactly.
And so I don't really know.
What I was going to say,
Oh,
sorry,
okay, go
I
ahead,
just
go
wanted to
ahead.
quickly say,
Yes.
very, very Cliff Booth moment towards the beginning when in the non F1 race, whatever that NASCAR race or whatever is at the beginning. The Daytona, thank you. When that guy is like coming up to Brad Pitt, he's gonna cuss him out, and the rest of the other team has to hold him back, and then it's revealed that he's holding a wrench. He's hiding it the whole time while appearing cool, calm, and collected. I was like, that's a real Cliff Booth move right there.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna
Except in Tarantino's movie, he actually would have
just like beat him
swung
in the
over
head.
and caged his head in. Yeah.
My thought on just like the performance of Brad Pitt is that it's actually kind of inverse of Abrams. It's still a problem, but that charisma is the
too
only
good.
charisma is the only thing that Brad Pitt has.
Mm.
And there's no
Sure.
there's no
Yeah, I
heart,
agree.
there's no soul, there's I don't know, the ideas of like ambition, desire, complicated human emotions. He's just like the suavest dude in the movie. He's got more suave than Javier Bardem, despite Javier being the guy who's throwing around buckets of money.
It's why Tom Cruise is a better movie star than Brad Pitt and always will be, is because Tom Cruise has all of that, but then also he can shift into Maverick mode or Ethan Hunt mode, where he's like, I care about all you people so much. I care about everyone in this movie so much. And you're like, he does care. He loves all of these guys, and he would lay down his life for all these people.
I love Scientology.
No, he does love that. Maybe, I don't know.
No, I'm saying me. As a fan.
I see. I love Scientology. Don't clip that.
Yeah. No, but I think I agree with all this. I think he fits the role really well, and he delivers these lines very well, and he's got the presence.
And
he
looks so good on the F1 posters across the world. Like he fulfills the purpose of the movie very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but my problem is not with him. It's with the writing of the character. He doesn't get scenarios or personality moments, which is interesting because I think this movie's issues really come to a head as it finishes out, and you realize that the cool parts of the movie were not building to something that was meaningfully interesting by the end of it, because as the movie is opening up and you're learning about this guy that has been out of this game for 30 years, and he lives in a van, and he's got this thing with the cards, and he trains, he trains in this very raw, personal way, and he's kind of like he's got
a lot of really shitty tattoos.
He's got a lot, really weird tattoos. That's a character I'm intrigued by. That's a character that I feel has this personality, but just from the traits that we learn about him and the position that he serves in this community, in this culture that is very sterile and samey, it seems, from what presented. But then he just kind of even though he's a wrecking ball, he also kind of ends up melting into the background, and you just don't learn anything about it. And then that goes to the very end of the movie where it's like, oh, what is it that you really want? And I'm like, this movie is not concerned. It's concerned with establishing an interesting character. I think Sonny Hayes is on concept an interesting person that I'm interested to learn more about. But there's no answers. He is interesting.
If
but
you
have to explore that further.
If there was a scene in the movie where it became evidently clear, textually, that Sonny Hayes was okay with and maybe even low-key wants to die racing, that's something that's something that you can infer about the character, certainly, But the movie is
Yeah.
just a little bit too toothless to kind of really look that idea
I think
in
that
the
that
eyes.
note, well, yes, would make for a really interesting thing is getting ixnayed immediately on the board
Yeah,
meeting with the
exactly.
FIA. They're like, that's
Yeah,
not what our sport is about. Like, we're not supposed to be dying during this thing. Like,
Or a lot of these sports movies are like, even Top Gun Maverick is like a death that hangs over him that contributes to the way. Like we never learn a thing about his past other than he got in the accident, which,
and that his
as
dad
we've all
died when
talked
he
about,
was young.
doesn't actually contribute to the texture of the movie post
Yeah.
that. Like we
It's
see
a
the
third
shots of the
act
scar, and I'm
reveal.
like,
Yeah, it's a third act reveal that is he knew the risks the entire time that he was doing all this, and he's known for the past 30 years.
but the risk clearly not that high because he's been doing this for 30 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's in
yeah.
Daytona, for Christ's sake.
I mean, I think you guys are right that it's largely a writing issue, and maybe this is a direction, a note of direction that I just don't agree with. But I just think that, like, if you look at the way that Brad Pitt is holding himself and delivering lines from his sort of like mea culpa to Carrie Condon about what he's actually doing here, through to his exchange with Ruben about the fact that he's been hiding the severity of his injury.
Yeah.
We're operating in like a mode of delivery that is really not different from the film around it. And I
It's
just
not that
find,
exciting.
and so maybe so maybe it's a
Emotional.
combination of a lot of things. It's not. I think the diagnosis is less relevant for me than the effect, which is just that I find myself really disinterested from Brad Pitt's internal struggle, because that portion of the film I think could be removed. I watched the movie this time and I'm like, could you not remove the whole second crash? Could you not just take that out of the movie? Could you not take out the whole corporate espionage plot line? Could you not just excise that? Because we're trying to introduce all of these things to fill this void at the center of the film, but a lot of them are not particularly relevant. His as we mentioned before, his like double vision is not important.
I forgot that even happened.
the
I
The
heard
core-
it
documents
twice.
are
Yeah.
forged. No need to
Yeah.
investigate further.
Yeah, there's no real stakes to that plot point. There's no real need to have Sonny Hayes injure himself again because it doesn't change where his character's headspace really. I just think that there's like 30 minutes of this movie where we're trying to do a lot to make you care more, and I just don't. And I think that if this movie was 2 hours instead of 2.5 hours, it would be, I think, better pointed in the direction of where we point all of our praise, which is just simply the fun blockbuster quality of it. But I also don't want to just like have abdicate any responsibility of this film to be rigorously written because it's a summer blockbuster, because I think that Top Gun Maverick is a much more cogent version of this same
What show
film.
are we discussing? Like, what context are we now analyzing this movie in? We're that's what I was thinking right out of the gate here. I'm like, lots to like in this film, lots to dislike in this film.
Yeah, like
But as a quest movie, it really doesn't stand up, just because, I mean, we've harped on it quite a lot. And the center of our harping and dislike of it is like a non-existent main character and little to no themes. These are the components that I'm looking for. And especially when I'm like comparing it to the other movies on this list, like movies that are trying to say something, that are actually like impactful. To be on my high horse for a moment, I'm not getting off my
Here we
high
go.
horse. I'm staying on it. Now is the time to make art about shit that matters. And this movie is just cool. It doesn't matter. And
Yeah,
and so I just
was
can't
thinking a
give
lot
it-
about that.
Yeah, that's the end of my.
I was thinking a lot about that as the movie ended, and I was like, what we usually do for Quest is like really dig into what the film represents culturally and how that interacts with the political tensions of our time, and how, even if we're reviewing an old movie, how can we mirror that with our lives? And what can we learn from this? And I was realizing as this movie ends, and they're celebrating, and it's in Abu Dhabi, and there's like political intrigue in the background. Not sorry, I guess the money intrigue, right? But the political between the board members or whatever.
The little p politics, yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, the movie is just absolutely not concerned with those elements in the slightest. I think that the weakest element of the movie is Peter, the whatever the hell guy who's like
Mhm.
a fan of the sport and has a lot of money but doesn't know that much, and he wants to. Well, he wants
He acts in
money.
one way in
Um,
one scene, and then the next time he shows up, he's like completely different. His affect and his intentions and whatever. I don't like his character at all because he's just
yeah, it's terrible.
he's just like two different people basically in the 3 scenes. we see.
And that's one of those places where he's the villain of the movie, but obviously he's not in it very much, and his motivations are either non-existent or too simple for me to like register them in my brain as a part of this movie.
He wants to
it's
take
like-
control of the team from Ruben.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
where there could be, right? So the idea of a hostile takeover, the idea of the money behind this really impacting things and impacting people's lives, like JP's life, where he's trying to stick with this team, but that might change. Like there are these elements where this texture could have been explored and really said something about the people that are behind these things and how there's different motivations that really end up impacting things. And the movie just makes this wet blanket of a guy, the villain, that shows up like 3 times and says like one line, and you don't give a shit about him.
Yeah.
I think it's even more than that. I think that his character is frustrating in a particular reason because he's introduced as this moneyed interest who doesn't know anything about F1.
Right.
And he's actually a tourist. He learned everything from Drive to Survive, which
the Netflix show, right? Yeah.
which is the Netflix show. And there is certainly a sentiment among people who are hardcore F1 fans that COVID was this moment when the sport got a lot of casuals in enjoying it who don't really know F1 like they do.
Right around
And
the time where
that's
this
fine.
movie got greenlit, by the way.
Of course, and so we cast our evil moneyed villain as a tourist who doesn't know about the sport, and I think that it is just, again, it goes back to brand maintenance, and I think that that's frustrating. But I also think that I think Timo has such an interesting point here about okay, we sort of take all of this, but at the end of the day, even if this stuff is executed better, it's still not it's a much less meaningful movie than a one battle or something, right?
Even
And
it's
I-
even less meaningful than Top Gun Maverick, which I am like those movies are they're I'm gonna call them cockpit movies. Like the drama takes
Yep.
place in the cockpit. And Top Gun Maverick, for all the things I don't like about it, like it has a lot to say, it has a lot to think about. There's a lot to chew on of like
It is
the
at
world
the
and
very least,
interpersonal relationships
yeah.
and stuff. And this is
It
none
is
of
at the very least in conversation with like the types of movies that were made 35 years ago. Like it is in conversation with Top Gun and how Tom Cruise as a star has transformed since then, and how the way we make movies has transformed since then, et cetera, and like the legacy of the characters and everything like that. F1 is drafting on those very same ideas, and like trying to pattern match them as closely as it can. I mean, that is literally why Kosinski was probably brought onto this movie, because they're like, you squint and you look and it's like, yeah, I can see
how
I can
different
see the
is it
outline.
really? Like, and then all the
Old
techie shit
guy,
about
new-
how they made it. It's the
Yeah,
same.
old guy still does it. New kids, he's got to teach him how to do it, going fast, etc., etc. Like I can see the outline of a Maverick here. But a Maverick, this is not. I do want to briefly throw in that just because I don't know if we'll have another avenue to talk about it, that in the most likely sequel that's going to get made to this movie, there has been conversations from Jerry Bruckheimer, who's a producer on this, and Top Gun Maverick as well, that he'd like to cross over F1 and do a legacy sequel to Days of Thunder as well, Tom Cruise NASCAR movie. At which point I'm like, if you want me to care about a sequel to this, you bring in Tom Cruise, you're gonna make yourself $3 billion, Jerry Bruckheimer and Apple TV.
I hear what you guys are saying, and I broadly agree, but I was actually going to make a somewhat different point, which was just
Okay.
that I actually think it's fine in the slate of 10 Best Picture nominees for 1 or 2 of them to be fun and largely meaningless, or sort of aiming it with a little bit of a lower target, like Avatar: Way of Water, which I think still has like a political worldview, but is really not concerned with putting that in the fore to any degree. but because like, and I sort of have the word of the big picture speaking through me right now. But there is a degree to which a movie like this getting nominated is because this movie indicates that there is a whole world of filmmaking and craft that does not exist above the line. And a movie like this fails above the line, but is fucking going crazy
It is
below the
flying
line.
below the line. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
very
And like
good point.
And like that is a lot of movie making. That's a
Yeah.
lot of movie making, and
It's a
that's
lot
a
of
lot
people's
of
jobs, a lot of I know exactly the moment in the pod that you're talking about, Abram. They're like, a lot of people in the academy vote for stuff like this because they work for their job is
Like-
stuff like this.
Yes.
and as an appreciator of blockbuster and as an appreciator of stunt work and as an appreciator of a lot of the stuff that motivates and animates a lot of the movies I enjoy the most outside of this the purview of Quest for the Bestest, I watch this, I'm like, yeah, this is actually pretty fucking awesome. The film that they made here, and I understand that being celebrated, and this is in part me like doing a response to discourse from nominations of people being like, it's completely ridiculous that this got in over like it was just an accident or no other choice, whatever. And I hear those people, but I think that there is a real undervaluing, even on this show, to indict us as well, of what is
Definitely.
happening under the line. And I think
Under
that
the hood of a movie.
under the hood. And I think we would be
Oh.
remiss to not celebrate that to some degree in a review of a movie like this, where that craft is why I have seen it happily 3 times, even if
Yeah.
I think that the core of it is so nothing.
Abram, I
It's
think you're absolutely right.
Samuel B. Mayer, art and business.
I think you. That's not even what
It's not
Aaron's
Samuel
talking about
Mayer,
though. He's
whatever.
talking. He's
Oh,
yeah. I was gonna.
It's
He's
Luke.
talking about literally like the technical aspects of
Sam-
F1 and movie making, and yeah, to your point, Abram, absolutely. Like, yeah, on this show, we are often remiss to talk about a lot of that kind of thing. We throw over to Timo for a quick sentence or two at the end about the sound or whatever as part of a bit, but also because it's just not something that we
We
consider
gotta throw
too
it. We
deeply.
gotta eventually get some shout outs to cinematography and editing in this, because
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
right. It just
yeah.
like
And
really deserves it in
even
those categories.
I didn't mean it to be dismissive or whatever, but like it almost came off that way when I was like, yeah, you watched this in the theater and it was fucking awesome. I was like, there's a lot of people's job and blood and sweat and tears that go into ensuring that that is the case. And if we want to balloon it out again to like attributing that all to an auteur, Joseph Kosinski seems to have a really good sense of how to direct his technical teams in those directions. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that to me is why I and you guys will see this when we put in our scores. I'm happy to give this like a middle 8 because I'm like, yeah, this movie's sick. Like
Really fun,
I
it's
watched it
cool.
and straight up for 80% of it, I
Mhm.
was having a great time. I mean, I'm decently invested in these characters, and when they're on the goddamn track, I'm like, I have never seen anything like this in my entire life. I think that Joseph Kosinski is an auteur working on a level of craft and precision and teamwork with his crews that is close to unmatched, especially in modern
And we gotta
filmmaking.
talk
Yeah.
about how they filmed this movie too. Like the
Yeah.
the meta
Sure.
production history of this is very, very interesting.
Yeah, and just one shot that keys me into this being one of the best made movies of last year is this moment in the early Daytona race.
Yeah.
When the 2 cars are coasting around the side of this thing, a helicopter comes in from the side, fireworks
There
are coming up in the back.
on the track. That shouldn't be allowed. Why is that happening?
Yeah, the sparks are flying and stuff, and I'm like, like a
This is
team of
unreal.
20 people
Yeah.
collaborated over months to make that 1-second shot happen, and it is amazing.
Yeah.
And that is, and a lot of these small shots, these small moments, the whip pans, all this stuff, I'm like, this is a level of engaged, intricate storytelling that keeps it clear. Like, this movie doesn't have a problem that I think a lot of racing movies have is I think this movie's clear.
Oh, I
It
know what's
operates
going
from a
on
number of,
all the
of
time.
angles.
Mhm.
Yeah, you get the top downs of the grid and the little names. You learn like, okay, the PRC is Pearson and HYA is Hayes. Like, this movie has a visual language that took a lot of time, I'm sure, to hone, because a lot of this shit is not regularly shown to the F1 audience.
Well-
This is like pit stop stuff and like close up on the car as like a thing like goes slightly wrong and like all these things. Like this is a masterwork on knowing the sport and then finding 5 or 6 different angles to portray every story beat, so it is clear what is going on. And I think that's really, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to say that, right, Tucker? Because I agree, but I would complicate it a little bit in that a lot of this does just look like you're watching ESPN as you're watching an F1 race. But I think that what those broadcasts are unable to capture, to your point, is how it feels to be on the track. You know, they can they've got cameras all over these cars. So you're watching
F1
ESPN.
broadcast is a thing of beauty. It's crazy.
Yeah. They are taking you from these overhead drone shots down onto the front of the car. They're taking you behind the head of the racer. They're taking you into their helmet. Like, you're seeing a lot of that. But obviously, you're not seeing that from an editor who is this adept. You're not seeing it from a production that is this glossy and has just a couple more angles that the races don't have, to where if you're watching F1, you understand the look and feel of the screen, but you're understanding it from a much more visceral quality because of the way that we are editing to indicate that these cars are two things: extremely expensive and extremely delicate. And I think you understand that as pieces are flying off and we are floating over the track and we are getting into these amazingly fast edited hit crew moments, and we're peeling out and you're seeing the degradation on the tire in such close detail. Like, they're capturing this in like an almost poetic sense. They're taking the F1 broadcast and giving you angles and moments and pieces that are invisible to the eye when you're sitting in your living room watching ESPN. And I think that is beautiful. I think that in the craft is the love for the sport, and in the script is all this more cynical baggage. But I think that to me, of all the technical dimensions of the film that make it excellent, I think it's the editing that is most excellent.
Yeah, got to show it. Yeah, we brought it up. Stephen Mirione is the editor on this film. I was like, oh, what did he do? He didn't do Maverick, but I was like, oh, he did do one of the other best edited films of all time, Ocean's 11. So, and Ocean's 12 and 13 for that matter. He also worked on Birdman and The Revenant and stuff like that. So,
how many hours of footage do you think they got in this movie? Like, how many they captured and then had to sift and sort to create these scenes?
To your point about the production of this film, Timo, if memory serves, I did not do a peruse before we started. This film was filmed during like the F1 season to line up, and
it was the
to line up to get all the crowd
season,
shots
wasn't it?
Yeah, which is why this movie is insanely expensive, because they had to line up the shooting schedule with all that stuff.
And when they're doing stuff on the track. What I watched a YouTube video a while ago, like when you have like these moments with our picture car and then all the other cars, that is actually like during a race wherein they organized an extra lap or two for all the racers, and they get all the cameras in there, they do it, and the picture car is not an actual F1 car. It's kind of reskinned. It's got there's like tons of techie history about like they got the battery versions to move them around so they don't have to have the gas, and they got the actual like old school gas versions that can just flat out do this really high speed driving really high speed for the camera. But they would the FIA would be like, okay, you have 2.5 minutes to do your takes here. You've got 2.5 minutes all week for this like very one specific thing. They would go and do it and film it with like 900 angles or whatever, however many angles they had. And what we then see, and why this feels so close to the sport. Like, I think that's kind of where, some of the tension is, that this is like a really, really documentarian look at Formula One. And that's because we're taking place in, we're there. You can even, if you look really closely, you can see cameramen for the movie in the backgrounds of the shots. You just don't care because they look like they're supposed to be there, right?
Yeah, they're part of the F1 registered trademark production crew.
And what I will say about that is, and I don't know, you guys can disagree with this if you want, I think that is a part of the artistic value of this movie. And that can only happen when you are this entwined with the board and the money and all this stuff. I agree that it harms the narrative of the film. I agree that it, in some ways, might harm what I see as artistic integrity for a project. But
Access.
you do not get access to the accuracy and to the variety and to the real life races that are happening.
Just to have your
that
cameraman
you're able
on
to
the podium.
place.
Yeah,
You can't do that. And also, like, let's be totally honest. If they just tried to recreate all this stuff and were totally separate from the FIA board, like, it would be a worse movie. And so I do think that there is a value there, artistic value, to capturing something that is very important, very popular, through a lens that can only be achieved with this kind of interconnectivity.
I got two examples, two points to bring up in direct response to what you just said, and I think you're exactly right. Is the two things that popped into my head immediately were, it is a less evil version of all the movies that collaborate with the U.S. military, you know, for all their stuff. Your MC movies or your Top Gun Mavericks, for that matter, that, like, you know, need the
They're all
equipment
getting money
and the
from the
personnel.
Saudi PIF anyway. Though.
Exactly, exactly. Very good, Timo. But, like, yeah, like, you don't get the look of those movies. You don't get the authenticity of all that stuff without playing ball with a very unsavory organization. Whether that be the F1 corporation or the United States military. And two, if you don't do that, you get something like, the first thing that popped into my mind was the 2025 movie Him, which has to do, like, off-brand NFL teams. And, like, we're playing
like,
in the league that's not the NFL, but it's basically the NFL. But we have to call it something different, and the teams have to be named different things. We're like, this is like dime store recreation. Like, this doesn't feel horror or authentic.
Which makes the egregious product placement in this movie very complicated, because, like, say we make up a different league for F1. Well, you also got to make up all the ads. Yeah, G1. Okay, we got G1. So like, you have to make up the Aramco
Tommy Hilfiger
ads, and, you know, and Pirelli, and, like, all these brands. It's so strange to just be like, that is the production design, that is the visual language of the sport, is plaster it with ads. And so we got to do it in this movie. And, well, you know me, I'm just against that. So it's like, it's very weird to be like, it's got to be there, but I don't like it. But it would be so weird if it isn't there.
Yeah, there's like a degree for me to where this is almost like a concert movie.
Kinda, yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes it cool. Like, there's a moment that I'm almost positive is not in the shooting script, where Sonny Hayes is doing a 2-camera after race interview, and Fernando Alonso comes and puts his hand on his shoulder to get a fist bump. And I am almost positive, because of how the movie was made, that was them filming that in the paddock after the race.
You get a fucking fist bump from Brad Pitt right now. Obviously, I'm gonna go for that.
And that's real Fernando Alonso going up in the middle of the take and giving him a real fist bump. And those sorts of things add to the fidelity of this and add to the reality of this. And you kind of, at least I do, as not a massive F1 fan, but I've become an F1 fan over the last many years.
Damn cool.
It's cool. And you watch it kind of like you are watching the Eras Tour movie. And because, like, there are all of the racers, and there are the real commentators and the real tracks and all of that stuff. And so that's why I think that you guys are introducing, I think, a good and honest assessment of this movie, which is that all of this stuff, a lot of the excess of this movie is the same as the excess of F1, the sport itself. It falls into a lot of the same issues, and it's and the fidelity that this movie has to the actual sport is I think illustrative of its strengths and weaknesses. So yeah, it is really fun to watch.
And
there's no doubt about that.
I'm not above saying that, like, when I watched it the first time and when I watch it again, there are long stretches where I go dumb guy mode. I was like, God, this fucking rules. You know, for all the criticisms I threw at the old guys get it done, like, that is manipulative movie stuff that on some level I'm like, fuck yeah, Brad Pitt. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah,
you
guys
fucking
do get
stick
it done.
You stick it to these fucking assholes. They don't know that you're all about combat, maybe, that you're about chaos, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But you do, Brad Pitt. The movie is effective at least tricking me and a great many other people, I would deign to say, into those lines of thinking, because it's well made, it's exciting, and all these things. It's some movie magic there, if you will.
Mhm.
So
I just
yeah.
want to shout out kind of I don't really have specific like shots in mind, but my two favorite like type of shot in this movie is they're all like on the car. We're mounted on the car, right? And it's when we're looking backwards, we do a whip pan, right?
Uh-huh.
As the car that is like important for this story drama
Moment,
beat
yeah.
of the race, as someone overtakes the other one, and that thing just stays. You can tell that we're going 900 million miles an hour land speed, and yet
Right.
it's centered in the frame, and I just watch it happen, and then like we go from forward to backward, and it's like, oh my god, like that's crazy. And I also really love it when it's a similar shot. It's usually from the other side of the car, looking still backwards, where we get to see one of them vehicles just like come out from the side and like zoom forward, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
the sense of speed, which is clearly a key component of any good racing movie, is so like spot on here. It's just like that is what differentiates F1 in my mind from Daytona and NASCAR, is that these cars are freaky fast and they drive in a way that is like a little incomprehensible to humans. And so when I get to see this like almost uncanny performance of a vehicle, but in my lizard brain, I know that this is how it really is in real life. It's just awesome because I don't know. I like a machine. What can I say? I like a machine. I like it when it goes fast and makes a big noise.
I like
I'm a
the
simple guy.
machine. I like the machine.
If I had to critique the movie in any place on the
Yeah.
technical side, it'd be the color grading.
Oh, sure.
This
yeah.
movie's really flat color wise.
I mean, it matches the corpo slop look of F1 pretty well, I would say.
Yeah.
But there's no golden hour sunset sunrise look of a Top Gun Maverick here by any means.
Exactly, and I think that its coldness is part of why I find it personally difficult to buy into the personal stakes of some of these things. Like I'm seeing these shots and they're sitting in a cold gray office, and the camera is like, you can see like the tone of their skin. I'm like, that person doesn't actually look like that. They've like graded out just a little bit to like make the wash feel similar. And I'm like, put a little warm key lighting on these people. I'm gonna really buy into their lives a little bit more. But the movie's just unconcerned with that. And so I actually do think that its color grading and some of its lighting is a detriment to like my personal involvement in it.
I think weirdly the beginning in any racing that's not F1 looks better to me. I think
yes.
Like the desert stuff at the end, or like the the thing that immediately just grabs me by both my shoulders and you'd be like, get ready to see some fucking cool shit, bitch. And it just sits me down and is like, put on some fucking Led Zeppelin, have Brad Pitt race through fucking fireworks. We're doing this shit, baby. Like when the immediate wake up and walking out and putting all your stuff on and hopping in the car immediately, it was like, when I saw that in the movie theater, was like, yeah, this is a perfect movie. No, it's absolute cinema here. When we start playing fucking "Whole Lot of Love" by Led Zeppelin, I was like,
the infinite budget.
You got
needle
my
drops.
number.
Yes. I'm like, yeah. You could buy any song in the world and put it in this movie, and we're going with classic rock, baby.
Here's my thing: there's not enough classic rock needle drops for my liking. First of all, they do the one, they do the major one, like just like in Maverick there was "Won't Get Fooled Again" by The Who. They do the opening Led Zeppelin needle drop here. But again, a lot of it is like some corporate synergy. Like we paid 6 ultra pop stars to write 6 different songs that will be dropped throughout different times of this movie,
and then we will release on Warner Music Group as F1 the movie, the album.
Yes.
Let me say this about the music here. I had an interesting experience.
The movie, the album.
I had an interesting experience when I was in Japan recently.
Okay.
Because I bet that there is probably, there's like a 40% chance that in any restaurant I walked into, they are going to be playing Ed Sheeran.
Wow. All right.
I don't think I quite understood it. And Sean was explaining to me like the places that Ed Sheeran has been allowed to perform where literally nobody else has been allowed to perform. That, like, Ed Sheeran is this phenomenon.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And like he did like a Pokemon theme song.
He was in Yesterday. He was in Game of Thrones and Yesterday in 2019.
and so like there's a degree to where the soundtrack is like very much engineered because you have the classic needle drops for Tanner, and then my dad.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And then you have
But-
Hans
and then-
Zimmer for like epic movie magic. And then,
then
Zimmer
for
score is
me,
awesome.
and then for me, you have the Don Toliver Doja Cat song at the in the middle of the movie.
For Anna,
And-
you have the Rosé song that's in there.
And so like that is where I think that there's like a cynical read of that, but then there's also the read of like, this is blockbuster filmmaking, baby. This is assembling
in
that
scene.
soundtrack
Mm-hmm.
for everybody, because I
Which
was
crazy. But sorry,
Yeah.
finish your point. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, like, even before I saw the movie the first time, I was texting my friend being like, oh shit, they got Don Toliver and Doja Cat on a song together for F1.
Uh-huh.
And I'm waiting for that to hit. Or I'm watching this in the living room with my parents, and my dad is like, he hears the Led Zeppelin, and he's
Yeah.
like really getting into it. Like that's some of that, and that's some of that 4-quadrant engineering that this movie has for
There's
sure.
a crazy,
Whole
there was a
baby.
crazy moment where yes, Anna knew that there was a Rosé song that was in this movie that she was waiting for, as you just kind of mentioned, you with you and the Don Toliver one. But she was
I'm more of a
also-
Chardonnay fan.
very good, very good. She was also waiting for. There's like an actress from Bridgerton that's in this movie, but not like in the cast. That's clearly like footage of her at an F1 race that they spliced into the movie. And she's like, oh yeah, I heard she was in this movie. And I was like, she's literal blink and you miss it in the frame for less than half a second. The Hemsworths,
Yeah.
the Hemsworths
Yes.
The
are
Hem-
the
I
exact
was like,
same
what?
thing.
The Hemsworths
Yes.
are in this.
Really?
You just
As
see
themselves.
Liam and
Catch
Chris
that.
like talking to each other. It's like that is 1/4 second of Hemsworth brothers at a real F1 race that they just spliced in right there.
Well, that's part of the fun of watching the actual F1 broadcast
Mhm.
when they put the camera all over the place, finding all of the celebrities in their boxes
Yeah.
on the track. So, like, all that stuff, again, is also fidelity to the experience of F1. Like,
Mhm.
that makes it feel more real.
Yeah.
I typed in a number, I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
I'm tabbing
do
over.
we have any-
I'm gonna type.
I'm
it
gonna be
out
honest with you, I
too.
haven't yet.
But I was saying that as a way to say, like, I think I'm exhausted, not of the conversation, but I'm exhausted of new points. Does anybody
Yes.
else have anything they want to raise that they feel like we missed?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
For the
No.
this is it's a negative that actually turns into a positive. The announcer for the race, you know me, narration, not my favorite thing. Boy, oh boy, do I hate it for the beginning of the movie, but for the second half of the movie, I was okay with it. Like the just like explaining to me what's going on, like, and he takes the lead. Like, oh, I was like, just write it different. You know, I know we need to have this right because of the fidelity and to represent the sport. This is how you would experience it. Oh, the actual lines are so bad. I just like I don't need to be told what's going on. I need to be supported so that I am coming to this conclusion, but you are giving me, you know, an extra piece of context or extra little bit of info or something. And it gets there actually. I thought it improved throughout the movie, but for the first like 3 races, I was just like, can this guy just shut up, please? Like I don't need this.
Just for fun, I put in our video
what
planning.
is
This is
this?
like this is a really famous moment from a season a couple of years ago. Just so you can hear it for 2 seconds, like this is how F1 commentary is.
Sure.
And what's funny about this movie is that they're just doing the F1 commentary, but there are moments when they start saying things they would never say.
Okay.
Like, you know, you're listening to commentary and they're gonna be like, oh, that guy just passed out the guy with DRS. But here they're like, they just passed with DRS, the drag reduction system.
Sure.
like
just for you, just so you know.
There's definitely a fear, I think, on the
There
behalf
should be-
of the script writer. Yeah.
There should be
This
some
fear that you don't get
there
it.
should be some Looney Tunes, you know, Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote level like freeze frame, bing, like dictionary definition.
Like in Vice or whatever.
Sure. Anyway,
Adam McKay's F1.
Okay, Zeph.
what was the thing is, I mentioned the swan thing earlier. I just think it's a really funny moment. I don't know why it hit me, why it stuck in my head so much. I think it's the way that Brad Pitt delivers his line, when JP calls him Swan, because it's the one moment that Sonny Hayes / Brad Pitt actually seems flustered or confused by something that's happening. He's like, "What is that? What's Swan?" It's so funny the way he what is that? What's Swan?
We've all got our numbers
and then
punched in.
then he keeps
No, I
saying it
don't.
throughout the entire movie.
Oh, make sure your numbers
Uh,
punched in.
There we go.
I want to find out what this one is gonna get. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
3, 2, 1. Go.
Beep, 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 beep,
Tiddly,
beep,
tiddly,
beep,
tiddly,
beep,
tiddly.
beep, beep, beep.
Okay, we've got a score, and boy oh boy, is it tie, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, we
does
got,
it that
yeah, if we,
that rounds up, right?
yeah, if we round
does
up, then
it?
Good job, math boy.
Good job,
Uh-huh.
math boy.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Oh, now
So
we see.
F1 has a 7.5. We did a little rounding there. The point breakdown
Mhm.
is that Abram and I both gave it a flat 7, Tanner a 7.5, and Tucker an 8.3. And so that averages 7.5. We have the film from last week, if you remember, to last, a year in the past where we introduced at the top of the episode, and I said Bugonia got a 7.5 also. That was beleaguered. I apologize.
Yeah, that was
Begonia,
crazy.
Begonia versus F1 is our tie debate. We could let it be sorted by the decimal places, or we could go in
Well,
on
no,
a discussion.
it's not that difficult, but because the reason why Begonia's at that place is because one of us has it like 5 points lower than the rest of everyone else.
I wonder which way Abram will fall on this one.
Yeah, it's this.
Begonia or
all of-
F1?
For all of his fucking, all of his belly aching and all of his positioning about movies that say something and movies that are about something. I wonder which way he's gonna fall on this one. I wonder.
Who will vote to
But
put?
no, Tanner, there's
Yeah.
no aliens in this one.
That's what you were
Well,
talking about. That's what you were talking about, Tucker. I see.
To be fair, we have two movies that aren't about anything, so I'm actually comparing them on very even footing.
Whoa,
Very good. Very good.
But no, obviously I go F1.
I go Begonia.
Begonia above. I think I'm going to go Begonia above, and Abrams has F1 above, and so therefore it all settles out with F1 going at the 8th spot on the list. Only one film below it, GDT's Frankenstein, is at spot number 9, and so yeah, we sorted our tie, and
Damn,
now
that's way lower.
Now we need to Frankenstein is much lower at a 5.7.
Sorry, can we fix the decimals? I hate that it's 7.48.
Clean that up while I do this here a second.
I cleaned it up.
F1 is nominated for Best Picture. It has 3 3 below the line nominations. As we talked about, this is a real below the line contender and champion here. It is nominated for Best Editing, Best Visual Effects, and Best Sound.
Yep. I mean, I'm like ding, ding, ding on all of those. Who knows what's VFX and not in this movie, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, quite similar to Maverick in that regard, where they're like, no, that stuff's all real. It's like, I don't think it's all.
I think it's actually mostly not. We just can't tell. So for our uneducated viewers, for viewers without the skill of deduction and reasoning, what is the movie that we're going to be talking about last?
Sure. Lastly, we will be talking about Hamnet, which was for a long time considered to be sort of a challenger in the race for Best Picture, has settled into a definitely not going to win, and definitely is actually maybe something of a villain for this Oscar season. There are stronger villains. We actually just talked about one. I would say that is a bit of a villain for the race. The Train Dream is honestly weird enough, like quite weirdly divisive on film Twitter. But Hamnet is kind of I would say chiefly amongst them, like the one that really draws a line between people on like, were you affected by this? Were you not? Do you think this deserves, all the recognition it's getting, direction, and, supporting actor and actress and everything like that? Do you not? Do you agree with, with the storytelling and everything that's going on here? So yeah, I am interested to revisit this one because I saw it in theaters. And there was lots of tears and sniffles going around in my theater. I didn't find myself supremely affected by it. I think it's a very good movie still, just not one that is really cutting to the heart of my movie watching ideal.
Okay, well, I just wanted to look it up because this is a Chloe Zhao film, Hamnet.
It is,
and,
of course.
We will probably discuss this more, but there was a winner of Chloe Zhao's that we talked about on the show a long time ago, Nomadland. And so I'm curious to see differences, evolutions, many years since that one came out, as Chloe Zhao's done some projects in between. I haven't seen Hamnet at all, and so I'm looking forward to watching it.
No
and talking about it
pooping
with you
in
guys.
a bucket in this one, I don't think.
Is Kingo in this one?
Kingo, there's hit. You know how
He's
like
in
a
the
Disney,
there's a scene. There's a little scene.
yeah. Just Abram. Stick around for the credits is all I'll say. No, I was gonna say
Harry
there's
Styles?
Star Fox.
there's hidden Kingos, kind of like at Disney World. There's like hidden Mickeys. You gotta watch
sure.
out for those hidden Kingos.
It's like the 8-bit Luigi's in 3D World.
Exactly.
Certainly.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Thanks
after
for the
Hamnet,
fun.
we'll be done with
We'll
this
be
year.
done. And you'll know what to vote on your ballots when you're trying to
Yeah.
impress your friends.
Yeah, if you want to know what to be wrong about,
Just-
because we have a
just follow us.
0% track record.
Yep. Well, sometimes, like the pit crew, you got to do the opposite of what we say. So, did you catch that one from the movie? The reference to the movie we just watched. Enough from me. Let's meet back here in a week. We're going to be talking about Hamnet. I invite all of you viewers to come join us for that review. Thank you for a wonderful discussion about this film, and we'll be back next time for the final 2026 Best Picture nominee on the quest for the bestest from Backlot Banter. You know what I say: stay cool, keep warm, peace.